What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pause Reset Play. I just finished up watching the live stream that Bungie had today talking about the Crucible changes that are happening leading up to and into the Forsaken DLC. Now, a lot of these changes are, I think, welcomed from my end. I am excited about pretty much everything I heard today. There are some changes that are going to be very, very significant, and I think it's a good way of balancing what they did well in Destiny 1, taking some things that people did like here for Destiny 2, and giving a more varied and hybrid approach that I think can cater to a number of different playstyles. In the live stream, they went over changes to weapon slots, they went over changes to the mod system. They also just talked about general things when it comes to time to kill in PvP. And to be honest, I think a lot of the changes that they are making are in some cases long overdue. I will get into that in a bit, but the interesting thing that they talked about today, first off, was the weapon slot changes. Now, they did show a number of different weapons, and next to each weapon now, there is a ammo type associated with that weapon. So, long story short, you will be able to mix and match your weapons much, much better. You can, if you want, go back to a old school Destiny 1 loadout where you have your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, and your heavy weapon. But there's also a number of things you can do too to run a loadout exactly how you want. The example, of course, that they've given a few times now is somebody running 3 shotguns, which is entirely possible with the changes that they're making to the Crucible. So I think that those weapon slot changes are a step in the right direction. I never really was a fan of putting snipers and fusion rifles and shotguns and those types of weapons in the power weapon slot. I think that kind of really was very restrictive. So the fact that you can go back to and run a loadout just like Destiny 1, I think is a very good thing. But also, too, going further, I like the idea of being able to have even more customization over which weapons you want to run, which weapons you assign. So there were some basic restrictions. I know that rocket launchers, for instance, are always going to be heavy weapons. Linear fusion rifles, too, so something like Sleeper Simulant. You're not going to be able to run Sleeper Simulant in your primary weapon slot. That's just not going to fly. But for the most part, though, they are pretty accommodating to exactly how you want to run whichever playstyle you are most comfortable with. So that, I think, is a step in the right direction when it comes to the weapon slots. The other thing, too, and I'm a huge fan of this because I loved it for Destiny 1, is they are having random rolls come back. And again, we've known about that for a while, but it was very cool to see that in practice. The example that they showed a number of times was they had 3 different varieties of Better Devils, and each one was kind of progressing in terms of the god roll, so to speak, of what you would want to get if you got a Better Devils. So I like that. I think that that's a really good way of encouraging god roll Clever Dragon, or go in and get the Hawksaw that you really want. You know, all those things I think were really cool, and it gave you a carrot to chase. And it's more catered, I think, to the more hardcore players who really want to get the best weapon type that they can get. So random rolls is great. Weapon slot changes are awesome. They did also to dive into the changes to the mod system. Now, the current mod system that we have in place right now, that's pretty much all these mods are going to be more or less useless. Now, the fortunate thing is there should be some type of conversion system where you'll be able to get something for these. At the very least, you can take one of these and dismantle it, and you'll get mod components and legendary shards. Legendary shards are not going anywhere, so if you have an abundance of these like I do, fear not, they'll still have some type of value. Best case is you can trade these in and get some of the new mods, but even if you can't, you'll have a crazy amount of legendary shards, which is always going to help you out. The other thing is with the mod changes, no longer do you need to apply a mod to boost up the light on your weapon. So right now on my Conspirator here, it would be 380. I added this damage mod that bumped it up to 385. So no longer do weapon mods increase the light of your weapon. I think that's a good thing. It keeps things a bit more simple. The really interesting thing is there's a lot more customization that you can do now when it comes to your weapon mods. They showed a number of different types that you can use. There's mods that do increased damage versus orange bar enemies. There's mods that do increased damage versus bosses. So Some of these things I think really allow you to kind of tinker around and get the exact type of weapon you really want. The other cool thing is if you get a weapon that has a mod on it, but you're not really excited about that particular weapon, when you dismantle a weapon with a mod on it, you recycle that mod. So that's a nice way, I think, of accumulating a number of different mods, is by getting faction packages, getting weapon packages, etc. And you can break those down and get mods and have those so you can mix and match however you want. So I like the changes they're making to the overall weapon design, where weapons go, the mods you can use on them, random rolls, all those are great things. But the focus of this stream really was the changes that they're making to Crucible. Now, I've long voiced my frustration with Destiny 2 PvP. I really felt it was a pretty significant step in the wrong direction compared to Destiny 1. I know I've played way more Destiny 1 Crucible, or at least I had way more fun playing Destiny 1 Crucible than I have so far in Year 1 for Destiny 2. The nice thing is they are making a lot of changes to either go back to how it was before, or to make things better for a number of different play styles, and also reward more skilled play. Now, I'm not the best PvP player. I certainly would never claim that, but I do think it's important to reward your more skilled players with a Crucible system that can counterattack the team shooting that we've seen run amok the entire year for Season 1, or Year 1. So, key highlights for the Crucible changes. Number one is precision damage is now bumped up all across the board. So, in the clips that they were showing, you saw the exotic bows getting over 120 damage for a headshot. You saw hand cannons getting over 90 damage for a headshot. So this is more akin to Destiny 1, where you had weapons like Hawkmoon and Thorn doing high 80s, low 90s, in some cases, if you had a certain proc or certain perk proc, going over 100 damage for a headshot. That's a far cry from where we're at right now, where you, even with some of the strongest high impact weapons, you're not getting anywhere near that level of precision damage. So what's the end result of having greater precision damage all across the board? Well, you die much, much faster. So why I think that's a good thing is, right now, if you're in a 1 versus 2 battle, you're pretty much going to lose 95% of those encounters. Only very, very rarely will you be able to turn the tide and win those fights. Not so much anymore. With these changes to Crucible, because you're doing way more precision damage, if you're a more skilled player, then you're going to be able to rescue yourself from that situation much, much more often than you do right now. So they're rewarding players who are more accurate, more efficient with their shots, better precision shots, etc. So I like that change. I think it kind of goes away from the team shooting, which I don't like whatsoever. The other thing, too, they made a number of changes to grenades. They made changes to the melees. Now, instead of a 3-hit melee kill, which has been part of Destiny 2, now they're going back to the old school 2-hit melee from Destiny 1. So no longer are you going to have those melee fights where you're just meleeing left and right, nobody dies from it. Now, back to old school Destiny 1, 2 melees, somebody's dead, every single class, which I think is a great thing. The other thing, too, and this is really good for Titan players, I know Titans have kind of got beaten down here so far in Destiny 2 throughout the life of the game, is things like shoulder charge, things that are like a special melee ability, are now going back to a 1-hit melee. And you may recall from Destiny 1 that for a time period, the shoulder charge was a 1-hit kill. People complain, they changed it. I think, though, with all the changes that they're making to the weapon changes, where you can have multiple shotguns, etc., it makes sense for the shoulder charge to be a 1-hit melee. I never really had a problem with it, to be honest. I know some people kind of complain about it, but it's a risk versus reward situation. If you're rushing in to get that kill, 9 times out of 10 you may run into a shotgun and end up paying the price for it. So I like that they're going back to some of those things. I like that they're increasing, as they said, the overall lethality of these weapons, rewarding more skilled players. By and large, the things that I saw today in the live stream were things that I've been championing for most of the year, but also too with some added wrinkles. So I'm very excited to try this out when it comes live. I know some of these changes are going to coincide with when the Solstice of Heroes event ends on August 28th, so we'll be able to tinker around and play around with the different weapon slots and those things. But then once Forsaken comes out September 4th, we'll be able to dive right in and really try these things out. So let me know if you watch that live stream. Give me your feedback. I'm curious to see what the overall reaction of the community is. Is it something where you feel like the same way I do? It's largely positive. Or were you hoping for different things? Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. I'm excited. Can't wait for Forsaken. And now I'm looking forward to playing Crucible more in year 2 for Destiny 2. So thanks for watching. We will all catch up soon.